In this episode of the Nourish Life podcast, we're going to be talking about all things cholesterol. So we're going to dive into debunking some of these myths about cholesterol and discovering that red meat might not be the enemy. There might be other things to look at in your diet that could be having an effect on your cholesterol. So let's dive in.
Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Angela.
And I'm Claire, your companions on the journey to a successful and vibrant life.
We are here to debunk those media health myths and break through mental blocks that we all face.
Let's fuel your life with nourishing conversations to a healthier you.
You were frozen for a minute, Claire, but you're back.
I'm back. Okay, good. Just in time.
Yeah, live recording. Here we are. So
here we are. If anyone missed last week's episode, make sure you tune in because that was awesome. We had a amazing guest on and it was so inspiring. Like I wanted to get up and just go on a run.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So tune in. Don't skip it. Go back.
Go back. Ange, how are you doing? Long time no talk.
I know. Yeah, I feel like this week's a little bit challenging and I have had some different things going on and I'm still like going through like waves of my kid and his next chapter. So I have tears that come and it's very different. And like when I get on the other side of this and, kind of be able to look back, I would like to have a podcast about how, this journey has been because, as a parent, you're super excited for your kid's next chapter and you love hearing about it. It's cool to see them mature and have focus, which creates them to kind of mature and grow and purpose in life. But that journey also has them leaving the house and realizing the clock is going fast till when, he is at boot camp. And my mom researched ways to send a letter or whatever while he's there and kind of the rules. Aww. So, I'm savoring these moments and it does make you kind of look the other way on certain things because you just, you're like, whatever. It's so little compared to, the grand scheme of things. And I lean into that thing I heard years ago where it's like, is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is this going to matter in 5 days? Is this going to matter in 5 months, 5 years? And it really helps put in perspective of like where you're putting, especially as a parent, okay, whatever, like it's so little in the grand scheme of things and it really isn't going to matter. His missing assignments today or, he's doing well. He doesn't have missing assignments, but in past, it was like, I was so stressed about it and on him and really that it doesn't move much in the grand scheme of life. It's not good. You want to teach them responsibility, follow through, listening to instructions.
Yeah.
But as I've seen him shift into his role in the military and what he's excited to do within that space and how he has to show up and he's realizing that for himself, that's an area where you're like, yeah, it does click and it'll continue to click as he matures and life continues on. So anyways, so wow. I'm just being a mom over here trying to figure out. Navigate.
You should be so proud of yourself. I admire you so much. And all parents, because that is the hardest job ever, to make sure that your kid comes out okay at the end of the day, like picking those battles with yourself or making those decisions like, okay, like how hard do I come down on my kid? Like I want them to turn out okay. So you want to be hard on them, but not too hard because you don't want to traumatize them. Like,
you're like, oh great, sent them to therapy. Love that.
Yeah. It's just the hardest job. So you should be very, very proud of yourself for for how he came out.
I might buy myself a gift. You never know.
You should.
I'm
You
like,
should.
do I get a graduation gift? Because I feel like
you deserve one.
I'll treat myself somehow of just, that reward of, I've done the best I can until this moment of him being under my roof, and then my mom role will adjust, and then I will be figuring out what that looks like. But I'll always be his mom. He'll always be my kid. And it'll just change. So,
yep.
How are you, Claire? I took up the first 5 minutes.
No, I love it. You're going through a big transition, so I love hearing about it and how you're doing with it all. I'm doing well. I'm in a wedding tomorrow, so I'm really excited. My girlfriend Rylan is getting married, and it feels so crazy. It came up so fast. So we have today the rehearsal. So I'm going to actually be heading out to Queen Creek in a few hours. So getting started on that. And she just texted me, can I give you responsibility for tomorrow? So I'm so curious of what that's going to be. It's always fun hearing like, okay, like one of my friends is like, okay, at my wedding, your job is to make sure that my dad's side does not speak with my mom's side. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that'll be easy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You're like, do I have to say yes? Can I at least know what you're asking me before I dive into a big yes?
That's a good point.
Well, that sounds like a good weekend. Always fun to celebrate friends and their wedding and be in that party environment of just celebration. So very cool.
Very excited.
So what do you have on the books for us today, Claire?
Okay, so I picked the topic of cholesterol because there are so many myths out there and so many things that are thrown out there, just like everything, that one of the reasons why we started this is to kind of sift through all of those things where it's like, okay, yes, they say this, but is that really true? What do the numbers look like? All these things. And so as starting to work with this longevity focused mind and learning more just about, okay, what is cholesterol and what are the things that actually affect it? And so I want to kind of sift through some of those things because I personally have a lower density lipoprotein cholesterol. So that's what they call like the bad cholesterol. And then there's the higher density. So mine is genetically a little bit higher and a lot of people's is. And a lot of people think that, oh, if you have high cholesterol, you're just eating a lot of red meat. Or, they think that's the go-to because it has such a bad rap. So same with eggs. People think, oh, I have high cholesterol, I'm just going to cut out my eggs. But that isn't actually affecting your blood cholesterol the way that you think it is. So why does red meat have a bad rap? So it does have saturated fat in it, and that can be linked to the more of the bad cholesterol overall. And as time has gone on, there's been so many fad diets where they're like, fat is the enemy, like fat is bad. And in general, like trans fat, extremely bad. Saturated fat is something that we want to do in moderation, of course. And then the unsaturated fat is where we want to prioritize things. So yes, saturated fat can raise it slightly around 5%, but that's not the full story. So the fact that it only really rises it about 5% is not a reason to just, oh, okay, this is the reason that I have high cholesterol. So Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, she has a bunch of information. So I'll talk a bit about the way that she describes it, because I think it makes a lot of sense. So one thing that she pointed out that really made a lot of sense to me. So more than just doing the red meat or the eggs or anything like that, overall, your total calories and refined carbs are actually the cholesterol culprits. So doing like bagels, bread, whatever it is, that those can affect your labs more than just doing like a steak salad or eating just red meat or eggs for breakfast, something like that. So it's not just about the meat, it's about how often you eat it. So if you're having, like, one of our guidelines at HealthspanMD is they're in the yellow category. These are the foods that you want to do in moderation. And so anything with saturated fat, that could be dairy, meat, eggs is actually in the green category because Dr. Hurst says that they don't really affect your blood. He's never seen it have a huge impact on anyone's blood cholesterol. So that's a myth right there that everyone's like, oh, I should just cut out eggs. But it really isn't going to affect it as much as you would think it is. So it's not just about the meat. It's also about what you eat with it, your metabolism and your lifestyle. So if you're going to have, for example, sausage for breakfast, then maybe skip doing steak at dinner. Or if you're going to have a serving of dairy in the morning, and this is mainly if you have a high LDL levels, like that's why it's important to get your labs done and find out what your ratio is from good to bad, and also just what your bad is in general. So, because if you don't have an issue with it, then maybe you're doing great. Maybe whatever you're doing in your diet is working well for you. But if it is a little bit elevated, which majority of people's is, then it's something to take a look at. So, for example, you could do steak with vegetable or greens with olive oil. Whereas if you're maybe going to fast food or you're eating out, a burger with the bun, with fries and a soda, that might be different because you're having excess calories, you're having the refined carbs, and overall, there's so many comorbidities with the high cholesterol, other metabolic issues. Those go hand in hand, especially if you're looking out for heart disease. Your LDL levels the bad cholesterol has an effect on your heart health. And so if you're increasing your calories and your refined carbs, then you're driving both of those. Another thing is, it's really interesting to see when people start to lose weight naturally, how their bad cholesterol is affected. So I've seen a lot of my patients that they're not on a statin. They simply are doing all these lifestyle changes. Maybe they lose 50 pounds, and you look at their LDL, their bad cholesterol, and you compare it, and it has dropped amazingly. And so a big part of that is lowering your visceral fat. That's your fat around your organs. So as you're decreasing that, then it can actually improve your bad cholesterol. And then overall, your inflammation. So if you're constantly having, for example, fries when you're eating out, a lot of times those are going to be fried in vegetable oil or canola oil, different things like that. And overall, what you're consuming, the saturated fat levels of that, they can bind and they could have a really negative impact on your heart health and your LDL. So overall, decreasing the inflammation, decreasing the seed oils, things like that. For animal protein, although red meat should be in moderation, but choose the leaner proteins because those in general are going to have a lower amount of calories for the amount of protein that you're getting. For example, to get a full serving of protein and your amino acids and everything from beans, you would need like 2 full cups of beans in order to get that, that's a lot of beans.
Yeah, but that's cruising.
But if you have just like a 4-ounce serving of chicken breast, you can get the same. So I know that animal proteins can look like the enemy, but they don't have to be. Just like choosing those can actually help you get more out of your food and get more amino acids, get that full profile so that you're able to build your muscle mass and you're able to work on your health goals. If one of your goals is to lose weight, for example, then you're going to want to find these more lean proteins that are where you're able to consume less calories and get more out of those, especially if you're strength training, as everyone should be, and things like that. So the lean proteins that you can prioritize, I would say always aim for the grass-fed beef, turkey, chicken breast, things like that. You can always do ground turkey, ground chicken to kind of switch it up. Fish, so whatever your fish preference is, shellfish is okay, salmon, things like that.
I was gonna say, I was trying to find mine, but I had really low cholesterol. And then I had blood work done again, and it dropped more on like all of them. And I spent the last 6 months, maybe 4, eating, still from home, but eating the bad cholesterol, if you will, meaning like processed deli meat and salami and cheddar cheese, and it finally pushed up. So I had to do more work, but now I'm like, okay, I can taper off some of that. But yeah, it was very like too low, like way under what it was in a not so great range. Yeah.
And was that your good cholesterol?
Yeah. So all 3 that it was going, checking, it was under on all of them. So I had to just, I mean, I'm eating pretty clean, but I had to do a little extra work when I would shop. It's not that I was going out to eat at fast food restaurants. I just was changing some of the meats that I was having and adding more eggs back in because that was the good stuff too. And just to get it bumped up. So, but the fact that it like dropped and, low and then dropped again, it was work getting it back up because it's just not in my normal shopping to buy things that have that in there to pump it up. So yeah, I mean, food, it just shows how impactful food is. Because I can change my diet to raise it, and it shows that change. And in cases as we're very familiar with, like change your diet, make it better, and it'll come back down. So yeah, anyways, little random thing. I was trying to find my numbers to like, because they're ranges, that are given on your blood work. It's not to just be in one number. So to kind of know what all your stats are, your ranges, so you can be mindful.
Exactly. That way you know exactly where your focus should be, because being low in the good cholesterol is bad, and then being too high in the bad cholesterol is bad. So it's a good point. Like maybe you should be incorporating more eggs and more steak or whatever it is. So everyone's so different. That's why testing is important.
That's right. We're all little snowflakes made differently. So
I love it. Exactly. Another thing, so pairing it with healthy fats, of course, is something that we're going to want to do. So not doing any, like this means avocado oil, olive oil, nuts are another good healthy fat. Avoiding the seed oils, canola oil. I had to like go throw out my parents' vegetable oil last time I was there. I don't know if they continued that, but mom and dad, please throw it away. Fiber is important. So making sure that you're having the different things, like oats can be a good form. Flax, I actually love putting flaxseed or chia seeds into my yogurt. So that's a good way to, especially dairy in moderation, of course, but adding those things, or psyllium husk fiber. I'll do that in my smoothies, or I'll just put it into my yogurt, something like that. Beans, so you could do like meat and the beans or something that even has extra protein, extra fiber. Rotate your protein choices. So it's always good to do variety in your diet and not eat just like the same thing every single day. You can do that, but it's better to switch it up so then you're getting different vitamins and minerals each day into your lifestyle. So eggs, shellfish, dairy. So not just doing red meat every day. I mean, you can. Some people have really great results on that and have just the best cholesterol ever, and all they do is eat steak every single day for every meal. I know some people like that. So I mean, it's up to you, but just get your labs done and test it out. Because just because it's going to work for someone doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone. So overall, another thing is people just look at the total cholesterol number, but that number is very outdated. That number is not going to tell us everything. Obviously, like I said, how there's the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol. You want one to be higher than the other. So another thing is the LDL particle size, because that's going to give you a better determinant of your risk for heart disease based on that. Like I said, with the binding principles. So if you're having more saturated fats, then it's better to look at this overall to see how your body's really working with it and doing the binding. So HDL levels, like I said, those are the good cholesterol. You want that number to be higher. I think, I mean, your blood work will tell you what the range is that you're looking for. Another one that's important to get is triglycerides, because these can go hand in hand. It's actually really interesting. One of my patients had super high triglycerides, and someone told her that it could be due to the coffee that she was drinking and certain oils that were in her coffee. And she ended up cutting it out, and her triglycerides went way down. It was crazy. So that's another thing to get tested, just to see where you're at. They go hand in hand. And then ApoB and inflammation markers. So ApoB is going to be very driven by lifestyle change, but inflammation by genetics, sorry. Inflammation markers are very, very changed by lifestyle changes. So it's good to get both of those tested to see where you're at and see what you should be focusing on. But overall, if you're prioritizing your whole foods, you're lifting weights, you're breaking that down, you're breaking everything down, you're kind of purging your cells, you're sleeping well, you're allowing your body to recover, and you're not living off of sugar, then the grass-fed steak isn't going to be the enemy. So overall, this is mainly just to say that, you know, the red meat isn't really the enemy. There's other things that could be going on. So I would say
and I think too is there is in my journey a misconception of what I'm healthy, I work out, how could I'm mindful of what I'm eating, and yet it had a different effect on me where it was too low, and so it just is not always what we think, which in a lot of cases it's, oh, you have too much sugar and this and that, and you're like pre-diabetic, or and we're always used to the cutting. But even when we are in the space of like we've chatted hydration on here and sodium, as we get into these summer and hotter months, it is just mindfulness to make sure we are hydrating properly. We can be on the other side of it. We're used to hearing dehydration. You don't really connect the low numbers and stats with some of the classic blood work. But it is important to know where we're at, have that annual blood work, and making those small changes, like your lady with the coffee. I mean, there are other alternatives that she gets to still enjoy. It's just changing what form it's coming in. Just like the steaks, just like the meat. Salami is high in fat. It's heavily processed. It isn't the best. So sometimes cutting that out and finding an alternative is the trick.
Absolutely. And what is your action for the day?
My action is to add more rotation of my protein. I definitely find myself eating the same things. It's easy, but even if I add one more protein in my current ones, I'm having a third rotation. So I've been craving salmon or seafood, so this would be the time.
There you go.
I'm saying it out loud. I'm going to buy some.
Now you have to do it. That's the rule.
That's right. What about you, Claire? The clarification for all of us to walk away with today.
It is that red meat and eggs do not have to be the enemy.
I love that. It's true. It's ham and eggs, steak and eggs, they come together.
They do.
Well,
there's something to it.
Well, thank you, Claire, for reminding us the value of diving, the balance and the diving in of meat is not the enemy. And we will see you guys next week.
All right. See you all next week. Have a great day.